Enel's return in the final war. Hey guys, Saffron here today with another One Piece theory. So for the past 2 months I was doing my exam, so I couldn't really upload any videos, but I finally completed them. So I'm back now with a theory that I was thinking of while I was away. Keep in mind that this isn't my main theory for Enel's return, it's just one of my many ideas. So basically, I believe that there's a possibility that Enel or Enru will return to the One Piece story, not anytime soon, but rather possibly near the end of the story during the final war. I know some of you guys want Enel to return during the Vearth arc. Actually, I think that would be sick. Like, imagine Enel and Usopp, God Enel, that'd be so funny. But anyway, I noticed something a while ago that could help support the theory that he'll return in the final war, which I'll talk about later on. So just hear me out, guys. Okay, so we know that Enel has an interest in the Blue Sea. If I remember correctly, he was having a conversation with Robin about archaeologists. Also, when he was facing off against Luffy, he was wondering what a pirate king was, which I personally think may have been Oda's hint that he may return in the future, but that's just me. We also know that after he was beaten by Luffy and as he was flying away to Vearth on the Arc Maxime, he claimed that he would one day return. Knowing Oda, I don't think he'll just end Enel's relevance in the story here, given what he said. I actually think that Enel will keep to his word and that he'll return sometime in the future, possibly in the final war, if we go by my theory. So now that we've established that there's a possibility that he will return to the story in the future, let's move on to what I found and why it could explain the reason that Enel could come down to the Blue Sea. So if you guys remember, in Enel's cover story, after he was beaten by Luffy, he actually managed to reach Vearth, which actually turned out to be the moon. Now in 2 of these cover pages here, we saw Enel staring at 2 different hieroglyphic-like inscriptions on the wall. In the first hieroglyphics here, we see 3 winged people standing on a platform, each representing their own different race. Now, on the second hieroglyphics, we see the 3 winged people leaving the moon. So from this, Enel realized that the winged people of the One Piece world, which are the Burkans, the Shandians and the Skypians, were actually originally from the moon. In fact, there's a possibility that he already knew this, considering this manga panel where he says that he wants to return to Vearth, which could possibly mean that he could have already known that his ancestors came from the moon somehow. Oh yeah, you see those chopper-like beings on the platform there? They're called the Automata. Keep that in mind for later. Anyway, while he's examining the hieroglyphics, his head is tilted almost as if he's confused. But why would he be, considering that he could have already known that his ancestors came from the moon? Well, if we go back to the first hieroglyphic, there's something that many people didn't see. If you look below the platform to the bottom left, we actually see half the face of a hidden person descending down from the platform. And keep in mind that the platform is representative of the moon. Now, since each of the 3 winged people we see on the platform represent their own race, the logical conclusion is that this 4th person is representing their own race. This means that there was a 4th moon race. So, considering the fact that this 4th person is leaving the moon, while the 3 winged races are still on the moon, another conclusion that we can make is that this 4th moon race left to go down to the Blue Sea or the One Piece world before the other moon races did. Now, in the same cover story arc, we learned that Enel actually conquered the ancient moon city and gained an army of automatas under his command, which technically made him the ruler of the moon. So you may be wondering how this all links in with Enel's return, especially since he's already accomplished his dream of finding and ruling Vearth. Well, we know that Enel is an adventurous character. The entire events of Skypiea happened just because he wanted to find the Golden City, just so that he could use its gold in order to create a flying ship capable of reaching Vearth. So what if, now that Enel knows that there was in fact a secret 4th moon race which went down to the Blue Sea long ago before his ancestors did, he now plans to return to the One Piece world with his army of automatas in order to find this 4th moon race and see who they are. That seems like a compelling and likely motive for Enel returning to the One Piece world, in my opinion. But there's also the possibility that he may return to the One Piece world because maybe he decides to become the Pirate King or the God of the One Piece world. But that's just another idea. Anyway, don't leave just yet though, because I still have to talk about how this will link into him entering the final war and what role he could play in it. So, you may be wondering who the 4th moon race are today. Well, I actually think that they are the people who founded the ancient kingdom. And a little side note, I actually think that the 20 kings were also part of the 4th race, which I'll talk about in a future video. But anyway, this could basically mean that the D clan and also possibly the Kozuki clan too are the descendants of the 4th moon race, since the D clan may be the descendants of the ancient kingdom, according to what most theorists think. Now, I know you guys might think that I'm crazy for thinking that the Kozuki clan also came from the moon, but I've got a lot of evidence to back up this theory, which I'll get into in a future video, so stay tuned. Also, I made a theory a year ago where I brought up a lot of evidence, and even evidence that people didn't bring up before, to try to prove that the D clan may have originally come from the moon, so definitely check that out. Anyway, so what if Enel, through a twist of fate, ends up at the location of the final war? Now, this links in with my theory that during the final war, Robin will expose the world government and reveal the history of the Void Century while the whole world watches through a Denden Mushi, just like in Marineford. Now, here's where my speculation kicks in. So what if, through his powerful mantra, Enel manages to overhear Robin talking about the Void Century? If we go by my theory, what if he hears her talking about the D-Clan being the descendants of the 4th moon race who founded the ancient kingdom, who were later destroyed by the 20 kings? I wonder how he'd react if he found out that Luffy, the one who beat him, is theoretically a descendant of the 4th race. Hell, imagine he decided to join in on the war for the fun and fight against the world government. Also, this isn't too far-fetched since we know that Enel has a god complex. So, it would sort of make sense if he tried to overthrow the world government and the celestial dragons, seeing as they are basically the gods of the One Piece world. Who knows, imagine he becomes an ally in the war for a brief while, but later tries to become Pirate King or even God of the Blue Sea. That would be so funny, and I doubt that Luffy would even like that. I mean, imagine there's a rematch between Luffy and Enel. Honestly, I doubt it, but I'm just bringing that out there. Knowing that Enel has an army of automatas under his command, they could be useful in fighting against the further marines. And we can't forget that Oda said that he potentially has the power of a 500 million berry bounty pirate, which is what Luffy currently has. And we can't also forget that he has an OP Devil Fruit ability. So he would be very powerful enough to fight even against the much stronger enemies. Plus, he probably has one of the strongest observation haki in the series because he claimed himself that he was able to extend his mantra's range to the whole of Skypiea because of his Devil Fruit, which allowed him to pick up electromagnetic waves. So he potentially has one of the most strongest versions of observation haki in the series, but obviously it pales in comparison to Katakuri's observation haki. Lastly, because of the fact that most users of Conqueror's haki have been rulers, kings or captains so far in the series, it's highly likely that Enel probably has it too, but doesn't know, given the facts that he was the ruler of Skypiea for several years and that he's currently the ruler of the moon. And because of his god complex, it's even possible that he could potentially have one of the most powerful Conqueror's haki, which would be really beneficial if he planned to fight the stronger enemies. Anyway, I just think it would be interesting if this happens, but keep in mind that this part of the theory is purely speculation, so don't take it too seriously. So what do you guys think of this theory? Could the reason that he returns to the story be because he decides to search for the descendants of the 4th moon race who could turn out to be the D-Clan? Tell me what you think. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this little theory / speculation video. I would appreciate it if you liked the video and if you could subscribe so as to keep up to date with my theories, and also as it would help my content reach more people. As always guys, thanks for watching and have a nice day.